Hello everyone, boy Derek Diablo here, Diablo TV. Thursday, October 5th, 2023. And by popular demand, so to speak, I get people in comments and elsewhere asking me my thoughts on the current political situation. United States, primarily United States. 2024 presidential election, let's say, other things that's going on in American politics. Then we have our foreign policy, so it extends to globally, but I got people asking me very specifically about the candidates and so forth that are going to be running for president in 2024, that are running now. And then I'm just going to go from the top of the dome, so to speak. I could break this up into lots of videos and write out the titles and everything like that, but my channel is not a political channel to begin with. I'm not involved in politics anymore, but I have my opinions, let's say, and I do have a lot of experience, and I have my unique perspective, let's say, and I know a lot more about political science and more obscure forms of political science and political theories and so forth, stuff that not everybody knows. Plus, I stay away. I'm steady on the news, watching all the majors on both sides, even though it's all like one side. There's very little on any other side, so to speak. But let's just start right out with 2024 presidential race. I suppose we talk about candidates first, right? So this is a two-party system, right? Let's get to the system before we get to the candidates. So America's a two-party system. Then there's alternatives. That's not the only system out there. And then you got a lot of people talking, oh, we should be more like Europe and multi-party system. But here's the problem with that. And none of this is from me following anybody else or being in any organizations. I'm the leader of my own organization, one-man organization. You feel me? U.S. NATBOL, I got my own theory. So I could say U.S. National Bolshevism, some people, oh, Bolshevism, or third position vanguardism. That might sound better for you. So I'm going to get to third position vanguardism versus these other systems. So the first system is the American system, two-party system. There's an electoral college, so you have to get electoral votes. So all other parties can run for president, and you can indeed run for local government. But as far as the presidential election, we have electoral college. And when I was younger, maybe I didn't agree with it, but at this point, I do agree with it. I do agree with it. Believe it or not, I'm constitutionalist. People say, what do you mean you're a communist? Yeah, well, the kind of communist I was, the party I was in, CPUSA, Communist Party USA, I don't know what they believe in now. I haven't been involved in any organized politics since 2017. And I walked away to pursue a football casuals culture, which overlaps with politics. But ultimately, the politics messes up the football scene, even if much of it is an outward expression of politics or street politics. So then going back to the two-party system, in some ways it's, you have to be one of the two parties. That's true, so there's a lot of downsides to it, you could say. But if you have three parties, or multi-party, if you have 10 parties like they have in some countries, and then everybody gets a bit of the vote, then you have a rule by minority. Then you have okay, this candidate only got 12% of the vote, this one got 10, this one got 9, but now these guys are going to rule, then you have to form a coalition government. It gets complicated. So going back to the CPUSA, they're constitutionalists. That might sound weird, and they're patriotic. And there are people, I'm left-wing nationalist. I'm third position now, but I'm still going to be seen as left-wing. I came from that. Although when I was a kid, I fancied myself right-wing. It has to do with the music. I heard of the music that we're right-wing. We're anti-racist, we're patriotic, but we're right-wing. And patriotic is right-wing. But there's left-wing nationalists. And if you look at all the actual left-wing countries, China, Cuba, North Korea, Vietnam, they're all patriotic. You're not going to see people, you have dissidents that are against the system, that are against their country and against their, but it's about patriotism, nationalism, left-wing nationalism. Some are internationalists, like Cuba, but left-wing nationalism is still nationalism. I'm nationalist, straight up. So let's start there, and then we talk about the American two-party system. Okay, Democrats, Republicans. Then you got independents. But the thing about it is now you talk about a three-party system. If it was the independents actually had a chance, they have a chance because they sway the vote one way or another. So they are affecting the presidential outcome, but you can't win as an independent unless all the electoral college votes for you. It's not going to happen now. They're going to stick to their party lines. So, two-party system like America versus multi-party systems like you find in many European countries and elsewhere. The two-party system has to be better. Otherwise, you have to have a bunch of elections to narrow it down to two, to then fight them up. But if you did that right now, then independence would lose no matter what. So it would be back to two-party system. So then, most people question, because most people believe in democracy, so they say, oh, it has to be a choice. Well, if it's a choice between Republicans and Democrats, I call them Republicrats. People now call them, I've been calling that forever. So people call it now the Uniparty, but Republicrats. So I guess I would be like your Democrats who are, unified, basically, and your rhinos, because then your MAGA is over here, and you have your far left and far right, allegedly, in Democrat, but they all march in lockstep. Like, for example, in the Ukraine situation, you see they all march in lockstep behind their leader, and no. So let's talk about, before we get into the actual race and the candidates, and one party marching in lockstep behind one candidate, no debates, everybody's just going to go with him. So which one represents more autocracy and which one represents more democracy? In this two-party system, Republicans represents democracy. They got a lot of candidates. The other side is, no, you're getting Biden, and that's the end of it. And we all have to stick by him no matter what. And nobody's going to challenge him, no debates, no primaries, nothing like that. So behind the one leader, the dictator, so to speak, as I see it. So then we go back to the best system. Hey, and I'm American pride. I'm constitutionalist. I like you could think politically however you want, and that's the freedoms you get in this country. And if you want to be a communist or an anarchist, you have political freedom and freedom of assembly. So with that being said, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, supposed to have these things. But then the other people come in, oh, well, we're combating misinformation and disinformation. Well, according to who? Everybody talks about race. Isn't race disinformation and misinformation? It's not scientific. Something that was invented as a theory by white supremacists hundreds of years ago. And people go by it and want to keep it going. The first thing the critical race theory tells you that it's a social construct. So now, we'll get back into it. But what I believe in, not for America, unless it breaks down, what I believe in personally is a one-party system. The third position, vanguardism, strip away the third position, because that means not left-wing vanguardism or right-wing vanguardism. Left-wing vanguardism would be communism, Marxism, Leninism, Soviet Union, China, Cuba. Then you have your right-wing vanguardism, which would be fascism, National Socialism, Nazism. And you have an interesting one. That's third position by design, which nobody talks about, which one day maybe I'll get into on its own. The Baathism and the Saddamist Baathism, the Syrian Baathism. You gotta look into that. It's neither exactly right or left. And indeed, the Saddamist Baathist, Saddam Hussein, Iraq, America put him in that position. America's the one who backed him. So he developed his own system, and a lot of it was taken from Soviet Union and Nazi Germany, deliberately. You can look into it. It's very interesting if you're into studying these more obscure political theories. Saddamist Baathism. So it's a vanguard party system. It means in Franco in Spain. There's a lot of different variations on this system. But to be clear, it's not democratic socialism. Democratic socialism has never been done. It's a theory. And Dr. Cornel West, who I'll get back into, he said it to Tucker Carlson. They have a great interview. If you look back on it, you have to look it up because nobody's going to... He says right there, and he's the intellectual mind, him and Bernie Sanders, he's the intellectual heavyweight of the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. So the squad, you got AOC, the pretend Bronx dingbat and the Jabal Bowman. He thought he was trying to open the door by hitting the fire alarm. That's a false alarm. Don't you go to jail for that, especially in a building like that? Interrupting a vote. Two-tier justice. Ugh. What happened to systemic racism? Looks to me like systemic. The only thing systemic is that Democrats can get away with whatever they want, and conservatives or Republicans, and the other side is held to a different standard. That's obvious now. It kind of does away with the whole disparity of racial justice in the criminal justice system. To me, it looks like. So then, we don't have these problems in the vanguardism. There's one party. So Dr. Cornel West, he said very plainly to Tucker Carlson. When Tucker Carlson said, well, so, okay, you're not talking about socialism that all the rest of us are familiar with, you know, Marxism, Leninism, Stalinism, Soviet Union, China, North Korea, and so forth. So if you're not preaching that, what is this? Democratic socialism. Because you talk about these other European countries, they're free market economies, they're not socialist nations. The government controlling the means of production, and you can go into socialist theory, there's so many different variations of it. That's the problem with leftism. There's too many confusing different ideologies, and you could argue with them all day, it becomes confusing. Then you have to have an elite at the top or a vanguard that can decide for everybody. If it's just a bunch of intellectuals and college people and activists, oh, well, this means this, and intersectionality, and now, the tech conference is for women and non-binary, but then regular men show up, but they're not real. Oh, so now, wait a minute, so you guys get to now determine what gender somebody else is, but not what they define themselves as. So, general intellectual leftism that people think is leftism, liberals is what they are. They're not really leftists. They can flirt with it and create their own name. Democratic socialism. Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, except for Dr. Cornel West told Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson said, okay, so tell me, brother, what is this democratic socialism you guys are talking about that you're using to shape policy and influence others, and you want to run for, and you're holding office as senator? He says, well, it's never been done before. We haven't seen it yet. The people have never exercised self-determination. It's been crushed. Oh, so the entire DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, Bernie Sanders and the squad and all their influence on the Democratic Party and all the things they've done in all these major cities. Oh, so you're basing your policy decisions on an unproven theory, a political theory that has never happened yet. What will it do? Will it destroy the country? Will the country break apart? Will we go bankrupt? Will we get invaded? Will we cease to be a country? Will we prosper? Will we become stronger? What's the evidence? What does it look like? Who knows? That's their idea. Now, I can come to you not saying that I'm a full Marxist-Leninist anymore, but Marxism-Leninism, different from Marxism. Not that it has nothing to do with Marxism, but that's a whole other subject. Difference between Marxism and Marxism-Leninism. Difference between Marxism and Leninism and Marxism-Leninism, aka Stalinism. Joseph Stalin formulated Marxism-Leninism. Leninism is different from Marxism. Leninism is vanguardism. And a lot of socialists, your Trotskyites and your Mensheviks, Bolsheviks, Bolshi like in Clockwork Orange, Bolshi boots, it's a Russian term. Bolshevik, stronger, big, the Bolsh, the Mensch, the weak. So your Democratic Socialists of America, DSA, and oh yeah, we want democratic socialism, and your college activists and all these people, the Mensheviks, they're the weak of the socialists. The strong of the socialists is the Bolsheviks, the vanguard. So Vladimir Lenin, come up with the vanguardism. Then Joseph Stalin married them together and formulated it as Marxism-Leninism, the foremost revolutionary theory ever created by humans. Oh, they don't want to tell you about that, do they? What's the most effective form of revolution? Some people say, oh yeah, well, bloody revolution. Well, as we say, revolution doesn't come by voting. So go back to American Revolution. The American Revolution, and then the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and so forth, it's never been reproduced anywhere. It's only in America. And then if you say, well, democracy. Okay, so you got a popular, I think the consensus in the alleged left liberals, the Democrats, they say, oh, America's systemically racist because the founding fathers were all white men, slave owners, and they didn't allow women to vote, and there was no people of color voting. So, okay, so if your system is systemically racist to begin with, needs to be undone, justice needs to be served thereafter to amend for it because of slavery and women were involved and all those things leveled against America and the Constitution and the American system. But these same people, by and large, advocate democracy. We gotta defend democracy abroad, and the Trump they're enemy of democracy and our democracy. Who invented democracy? Oh, a bunch of white men, slave owners, and no women or people of color could vote. That's your democracy. It's founded arguably on white supremacy. Now, Greeks didn't come out with this idea of white supremacy. No, they're all Greek men. And they're not even the common people is able to vote. So the elites that are white men, that are slave owners, no women, no people of color. That's democracy for you. So if the American system is systemically racist and needs to be undone, well then democracy falls. It's the same thing. I'm a person of color, you understand, and Jewish, you understand. And I look back at it and I say, before democracy and alternatives to democracy, because do our people of color, indigenous people, people in Africa, throughout the Bible, did they believe in democracy? Do we practice democracy? No. So I'm looking towards other countries of people of color and the systems there. Who says democracy, an invention by white men, slave owners, who says that that's automatically the best thing? Why? Isn't that white supremacy? Democracy is white supremacy, isn't it? If America is white supremacist, if the founding is by white supremacists, I don't call these people white supremacists. I don't call the Greeks white supremacists or the Greeks white. Well, that's another question. You start looking at race, you start seeing that they have these old comparisons, which eventually I'll make books about and everything. You see, they have Libyan as lighter than Greek in one comparison chart, and this is an ancient one, Herodotus, maybe it was it? Somebody from antiquity. So it's a social construct, and it can be manipulated and used for different purposes, talking about race. But going back into this vanguardism, the one-party system, obviously it's more effective, it's more efficient. As far as the humanity involved and going against the system, well, let's just look at it for a second. This democratic socialism or this American leftism, this Democrats, democracy. So it seems like, if I didn't know any better, they advocate for mob rule and pure democracy in some instances, but in other instances, they adhere to the democratic republic concept. For example, in the Ukraine aid, most of America said no. You know, we got migrants all over the cities, open border, we got Maui destroyed, billions of dollars, they need to go to our people. So that's America first. So in all these major cities, you see people of color, Chicago, New York, everywhere, protesting migrants. Look at that guy, that racist mayor, New York Mayor Eric Adams. I mean, when he's on TV, man, we've been kicking these crackers' asses. Imagine if that was the other way around. Huh? He'd be done in politics. But, he gets away with it because he's Democrat. But look what he says. I've never seen a way out of this. I don't see a way out of this. And immigrants are going to destroy this city. Oh, so now immigrants destroy a city. Oh, but wait a minute, mate. Then how come my people, Cubans, even Mario Boatlift, empty out all the prisoners, mentally ill people, all came here? What did we get from the government? We got put in tent city under the highway. You seen Scarface, haven't you? But we built what was formerly a retirement community. Nothing here. Playland of the Italian mafia and so forth. We built it into the number one city in the world, Miami. Immigrant built and Latino majority. Majority non-white, majority people of color. How come? Because it doesn't matter about no color. It don't matter about no race. It matters what system is more effective and who are more competent to govern. And for those of you out here who don't want to get involved in politics, even talk about it or think about it, go back to Socrates. It was either Socrates or Plato, one of these ancient Greek brothers, foundation of Western thought. He said, those of us who refuse to participate in politics agree to be governed by our inferiors. Ooh. So if you don't want to get your hands dirty with politics, you don't want to think about it, okay, then jabronis who are not as smart as you or effective as you are going to do it for you and rule you in this democracy type of system. Now, in the vanguard system, different. Because the vanguardism, as brought forth by Vladimir Lenin, he observed that Marxism is cool, has some ideas, socialism versus capitalism, socialism versus capitalism. So he said, yeah, there's some good ideas in the socialism, but we're never going to go beyond workers' unions with this existing Marxism. There needs to arise a vanguard, the professional revolutionary class. Those of us, the strongest, the best, the most elite, the most pure of heart, the most benevolent. And we will guide society, and we will transform this nation. We will transform this world. We will transform ourselves. We will lead from the front. If the rest of the people work 40 hours, we work 60 hours. And we'll throw away the conventions of the past and create something new, a new vision for humanity. Now, sometimes it goes right. Because I just saw Joe Biden trying to cozy up to Vietnam in the international conference. Oh, we're fighting against autocracy and we're fighting for democracy in Ukraine. Ukraine's not a democracy. They don't even have elections anymore. Religion's banned, Orthodox church is banned, Russian language is banned. Imagine somebody saying, speaking Spanish is banned, you go to prison for it. That's what they do over there if you speak Russian in Ukraine. So that's not a democracy to begin with. Oh, we're fighting for democracy, abroad, democracy. Okay, then why do you want to have closer ties with Vietnam? Vietnam defeated America. Communist country defeated America. Oh, it was a stalemate. When you go invade a country, you go invade somebody's hood, and you attack them and they fight tooth and nail and drive you out and you give up. They won. What do you mean? They invaded, the invasion failed, got repelled. So like Afghanistan won, Taliban won. Taliban defeated America too. Joe Biden, great work. But so you got the Vietnam, it's a communist country. Socialist, no such thing as a communist country. This communism that Karl Marx envisioned has never been achieved. It probably will never be achieved. Nobody's going for it. We have socialist nations governed by communist parties. You can be a communist. You can believe in communist theory, but this communism that Karl Marx talked about, the final stage of world communism where nations will disappear, and sounds like anarchism. So none of us know exactly what he's talking about. And it really doesn't matter because he failed. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, I like Engels better, but their ideas didn't work. They never achieved any revolution in their lifetime. It wasn't until Vladimir Lenin came around and said, okay, some of this stuff is good, but we need to do this. And he established the vanguard. And I'm the vanguard. Who else is the vanguard? I don't know. Haven't emerged yet. Does it require the collapse of this system? Well, I think the beauty of America, one of the interesting facets, positive thing, we have all these states. States are nations. If you say the state in the past, a statesman, a state is a nation. So Florida, that's our nation. So, what's going to happen? The country's going to break apart maybe? And everybody has to all right, let's put troops on the border. Let's put tolls on the border of Florida. You want to enter, let's know who's coming in, who's coming out. And who's the native Floridians? Who's born here? Me. So we deserve more privileges, and we should have more rights, and we shouldn't have to pay the same amount of taxes as others. People want to move here, they should have to pay to move here. Put troops along the border. So that's what I see, and we have the best governor in the country. He proved it. Governor DeSantis, people might say this and that about him, but everything changed during the pandemic. Forced vaccinations, closing the businesses. When I grew up in Florida, I didn't go to school, did I? I went to 8th grade only, but I knew that it was a garbage school system. So I went and studied on my own. I was reading about fascism and communism, all this stuff in the library on my own in 9th grade and stuff like that. I stopped going to classes, educated myself. We used to be at the bottom. Florida, when I grew up in forever, that I always knew, we were at the bottom of education. We were one of the lowest states, one of the worst educated. And now, after the pandemic, we're like, if not number one, we're the top 5. And what they did, these teacher unions, the unions are good, but unions can be bad. Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And they got power. And these teacher unions, if you ban them in a state, that state's education will go up automatically. They say, oh, we don't want to teach you. Remote learning is just as good and everything like that. Oh, really? Now your kids can't read? 100% Baltimore or wherever, 100% of the people are ineffective at math. All right, good work. So the fact of the matter is Governor DeSantis kept us opened us up. Everybody can say whatever else they want. Forced vaccines. Obviously, I'm pure blood. I ain't taking no vaccines of those, you know. So that's where it starts getting tricky with these political videos. If I'm concentrating on World War II, interwar, more obscure stuff is one thing. But, you know, you start giving your personal opinion about something, flag you for disinformation and misinformation. I am not telling you anything. I'm just telling you my opinion. This ain't information. This is just a person's opinion. Eventually, I want to do news show and podcasts and, you know, be able to have a different forum, perhaps, where I could really express myself politically and really say what's on my mind. But, you know, we exist in a state of censorship, so it's not freedom of speech. And you can see Democrats collude with big tech to censor information. It's coming out now. Skew elections. Don't want to talk about that election, the last one. So then it starts being like, what's the difference of this two-party system if it's really a one-party system anyway? So then just eliminate the idea of the two-party system. And then, who gets to rule? Should it be these bureaucrats and these politicians and these lobbyists and these internationalists and these bankers? I don't think so. I think the strongest, the best, the most pure of heart, the most competent, the most effective should rule. There's a lot of people out there talking about politics that show the view. Why should they have any say? They disqualify themselves by the things they say from having a say, in my view. But we've already established that the vanguardism, the one-party system, is more effective and more efficient and more stable than a two-party system or a multi-party system. Is China stable? Now, do you have the same freedoms? You know, what freedoms exactly are we talking about? Because you say about leftism, oh, you know, these kids, we can't demonize these kids. And, you know, somebody's stealing and shoplifting $900 worth of stuff and, you know, selling it in the street in front of the store because they're hungry and they need bread and stuff. And sanctuary cities, all the things that people associate with American leftism, you leftists, you communists, or socialists, right-wing people, you're making a mistake by doing that. Because you're lumping everybody together and they're like, okay, well, we're all together. Don't do it. You right-wingers out there, you independents out there, you libertarians out there, look into the socialist theories. And you're going to agree with some of the stuff and obviously disagree with a lot of it. But then you can talk to a socialist or a leftist or a communist or an Antifa. You can talk to these people and say, okay, so are you aware of this? And you expose that they don't know what they're talking about. And they're not in line with one another. They're not in line with one another. So then you get into the 2024 presidential election. Let's give some quick thoughts. This administration and Nazi sympathizers since Barack Obama and Joe Biden, I've always said, I made songs about it. You know, what do you call somebody who works together with Nazis? They're Nazi aligned, they're Nazi collaborators, and then covering up the fact that they exist. Just now you had, you know, a big scandal in Canada. Canadian hero, Ukrainian hero, who fought for the liberation of Ukraine in World War II versus Russia. Uh, yeah, SS member, actual Nazi, harbored in Canada. Why have all the concentration camp guards and ordinary Wehrmacht German war army people been executed and everything else for being a part of that party and being a part of that organization? But an actual SS guy, he's a Canadian hero, and they apologize. Like they're apologizing of a security breach, that this guy was in the same room with Zelensky. What do you mean he's with Zelensky? Zelensky's a standing ovation. Think Zelensky didn't know who he was? How many Nazi war criminals are right now in Canada? World War II, actual ones. How many are in Ukraine? Poland already said we want to extradite that guy. He needs to face trial. How many other people are 90 years old, 80 years old, women that have been put on trial later in life because they were Nazi war criminals? Oh, how coincidental. And Joe Biden, the leader of the free world, NATO, all this other stuff, they were Nazis. Who defeated the Nazis on the Eastern Front? Soviet Union. Russia. Who sustained the most losses? Russia. 40% of the Jews killed in the Holocaust, Russia. European Jews come from Russia. When I was a kid, they didn't say Ashkenazi. They said Russian Jews, because of our empire. They're not Middle Eastern Jews. I'm both. My family on the Spanish side, Sephardic Jews, that's from Middle East to Spain. Then Ashkenazi Jews is from Russia. Russophobia, anti-Semitism are the same, are intertwined. If you're against Russia, you're against Russian Jews. If you're against Jews, you're against Russian Jews. Western Ukraine fought on the Nazi Germany side. They're still on that side. Eastern Ukraine fought on the Soviet Union side, on the side of the Allies. America, Great Britain, Russia. Cold War changed everything. Back to the presidential candidates. Well, on the Democratic side, you got nobody. You got an incompetent. It's sad to see this old man, this Joe Biden chap. He's always been a dummy, as we know. Always been a buffoon. Dropped out of his other presidential race prior for plagiarism. Whatever happened to that one? Yeah. Anyway, Clarence Thomas said he's always, talked about this guy. Natural law. It's funny, but it's not funny because he's the leader of our country. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's incompetent. He's whatever. I feel bad for the guy. He should be, somewhere eating his ice cream and watching reruns of Golden Girls or something, enjoying the rest of his life. But now look what's happened. So this is the two-party system you got. Now what? Now what? Now the country's so divided. Now the Department of Justice and the Biden administration is weaponized against Trump, and now Trump is the front runner of the presidential election. But they got him in court with this and that. Oh, he committed fraud. What fraud did he commit? Okay, it looked like you'd think that maybe there's something to it. So he overvalued real estate properties, but the banks got paid. It's a victimless crime. It's a civil case. So that's why you got the front runner for the presidential election caught up in court and everything like that. It's only going to make them stronger and make his people stronger. So, Democrat side, official Democrat politicians, zero candidates, zero good candidates. The Gavin Newsom, he's slick talking and stuff. If you want to talk about Gavin Newsom, Dead Kennedy should make a California Uber Alles about Gavin Newsom. Be perfect. He's the least effective governor we have in the country. One of the worst, it looks like to me, but I'll let the people of California decide. That's the thing when it comes to international, unless it's America giving aid or interfering in other people's territorial disputes and so forth, I'm going to leave them to themselves. For example, UK. I'm not like this imposter Tommy Robinson, Stephen Yaxley chap, goes over America talking about American politics, and Nigel Farage. I like him. Brexit seemed good to me. But I'm not going to go to England and UK and stick my nose and meddle in their politics and give my opinion on their politics. It's for them to decide what they want to do with theirs. Now, America's different. I'm born in America. Understand? I'm American. So I can say my opinion in politics, and those who listen to me and follow me or consider the things I say, I'll let them make the decision for themselves. I'm not organizing any politics right now. I'm just giving my opinion. So Democrats have zero good candidates. Not one that's fit to be president. I don't know that they're fit to be a governor or a local mayor. I don't know how these guys running the sanitation unit. Now then, They did have RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I'm no fan of Kennedys because of the Bay of Pigs. Dead Kennedys are my favorite band too. But RFK, I like a lot of things he says. He would be the best Democrat, but you see, he's not part of their dynasty. He's part of a different dynasty. He's not part of this Obama, Clinton, Biden dynasty, Pelosi dynasty. So he's on the outsides of that. And they use some of his comments, but so what? Joe Biden says, you ain't black if you don't vote for me and everything. I don't want my kids to go to school in a racial jungle. You know, he could say all sort of outlandish stuff and make up stories about his past that are not true. You know, RFK, people don't like his position on vaccines. But I reckon that me and RFK line up, and he lines up with a lot of right-wing people, Republicans, libertarians. And the left-wing version of the libertarian is anarchist. Anarchism and libertarianism, there's no hard line. If you're unless you're a nihilistic anarchist. Nihilistic anarchism is different. Black bloc action, militant anarchism, they want to destroy the system. But you have other people who are anarchists who believe more in freedom and don't believe in being governed and so forth. So they're more like libertarians. They have a lot of the same sort of views. So, going back to these candidates, Democrat side, 0 candidates. I don't see one that's decent. Can't think of one. Apart from RFK, I liked a lot of things he said, and I like things he stands for. Many. I don't agree 100% with anybody. You shouldn't. If that's isn't that democracy? That you can think for yourself? Not be told what to do. Oh, you're a brown person. Who said I'm a brown person? What do you mean? I'm Latino. I have an ethnic group. I don't have no race. I ain't white, black, or brown or anything like that. I'm not part of your color system that white supremacists created 100 years ago that you want to keep perpetuating. Nah, I'm not with that. I'm ethnic group. I'm Latino, Jewish, American, Floridian, like that. So, another guy who I respect, a gentleman, a brother I respect, a comrade I respect a great deal. Again, don't agree with all his views. Dr. Cornel West, who I talked about before. And he's got this other party now. The name of it escapes me right now, so I'm telling you that how effective it is. The name, I can't even recall the name right now. However, Dr. Cornel West, RFK, those on the left, on the American left, those are and I think JFK is a classic liberal. He's not a modern Democrat, liberal, wannabe leftist, democratic socialist. I think he's a classic liberal, more along the lines of a Bill Clinton or Bill Maher. And I can agree with a lot of those guys on a lot of points. I have some conservative views, but I have other views that would be considered liberal. So, in the entire left side of things, let's say, because it's Democrats, 0 candidates for Democrat Party are good. And on the left side, but now they're independent, RFK, Dr. Cornel West, they're good. Then you go to the right side, or the Republican side, and it's stacked up. You got President Donald J. Trump, 45, the MAGA man, make America great again. I like that. Nationalism. He said, I think I'm going to bring back the word nationalism. People think it's better. Right. So, the thing is, he says, it's not presidential and so forth. Yeah, but look at things I say. And he's in pro wrestling, I'm in pro wrestling. But he brings baggage with him but he's funny though, and he's a good speaker, and I was one of the organizers and leaders of the anti-Trump movement. Against my personal beliefs of working with Democrats, I assisted in the Hillary Clinton campaign. I was throwing anti-Trump concerts. I was leading every protest on Antifa's behalf. I got women's march. I was LGBT protests on the front of it, taking over lanes and I-95, shutting down I-95, and I lived in the same county, with Palm Beach County, with Donald Trump, and then he became president. I thought they were going to come for me and everything like that based on my political views. And I'll say it, and people have asked me. I never once had any issue with any law enforcement or anything like that, or any government. I'm sure they watch you, of course. And the guy's an open communist leader, communist party leader of Antifa, going around marching, making music, so making propaganda, and creating authentic left-wing communist, anti-fascist, anti-Trump propaganda. I was the first one in Fort Lauderdale protesting after within hours of the election, I'm walking around anti-fascist, anti-Trump. They're around Fort Lauderdale, leading protests, going to protests. Cops all looking at me and everything like that. But I didn't break the law. I didn't do anything. You have a right to protest, freedom of speech. And little by little, the things Trump did, I agreed with the vast majority of his policies. Be more difficult to think of what things I didn't agree with. Because you talk about a border. Now people are starting to see all these communities of color. So blacks and Latinos in all these big cities saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. Huh. Forget this sanctuary city stuff. Close the border. Deport these people out of here. They're taking our resources. They're taking resources away from blacks to give to migrants and from Latinos that are born here to give to illegal immigrants. So then you go back to leftism. How is open borders a leftist policy? Allegedly right-wing countries have freer border policies than left-wing. China, North Korea, Cuba, I said it before. Try to illegally enter one of those countries, see what happens to you. You already see plenty of examples. So socialist countries don't have open borders. Quite to the contrary, they can execute you. They do whatever they want. It's a one-party system. It's a vanguard party. Look at crime. Stiff prison sentences, everything else that goes on. Soft on crime, tough on crime policies, all this sort of stuff. What happens if you commit a crime in China, Cuba, North Korea? Those are left-wing countries. Those are socialist countries. So this is like the schizophrenia of leftism. You call yourself left and the other guys are right-wing. But then you're not identifying with the actual leftists. Marxism-Leninism. Marxism-Leninism is the main form of leftism, main form of socialism, strongest form, most effective form. Now, there's not too much in the way of freedom, but it's per case. Because Vietnam is communist, socialist, Marxist-Leninist, but you can travel freely. Nobody's accusing them of human rights violations. Oh, but Joe Biden, we're fighting against autocracies and fighting for democracy. Okay, but you want closer ties with Saudi Arabia and Vietnam. At the same time, you're saying that it's schizophrenic. It's used to manipulate people who are less educated or less informed. So I'll try to start wrapping up because I can go a lot further, and maybe I will. But going back to the right wing or the Republican presidential candidates, and the Republicans are obviously more effective at governing. Now, when it comes to abortion, that's one where I'm going to be more on the liberal side, but not the extreme side right up to the moment of birth. It has to be something reasonable. I'm not going to give my opinion what's reasonable, but when the baby's fully formed and stuff like that, when it's viable, So let's say I'm pro-choice. I march in the women's march. Her body, her choice. I believe in that overall. Same like vaccines. My body, my choice. Same. When it comes to strong military, I go with the conservative or the right wing or the Republican side. I believe in that. Strong borders, border security. Border was good under Trump. Trump fixed the border. All Biden now. I just seen Biden took away some laws, so he's going to start building walls too. Campaign promise broken. Donald Trump campaign promise kept. Look at the support Donald Trump has. How many people got tattoos of Donald Trump? Trump, look at the size of his rallies. Other people say, well, it's because of this and because of this. Well, how come you're a man? Who's got a tattoo of Biden? Does anybody in the country have a tattoo of Joe Biden? Does anybody have a tattoo that says Biden? Maybe so. I feel bad for you. And look at the rallies he gets. And Mark Milley just stepped down. And, he's complaining about people not clapping enough. A bunch of diversity hires, a bunch of incompetent people, a bunch of people that come from a racist political party, the most racist political party in world history, Democrats. Slavery, Confederacy, the Civil War, Jim Crow. But they switch sides. What you mean? How can you switch sides? Nazi party only did atrocities for a few years compared to the Democrat party. And look who Robert Byrd, who's their mentor, who's their main man they elevate. Exalted Cyclops of the Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan backed him to run. I put out there the statements he made. After World War II, he's calling for the Klan to come back like never before. And that Klansman backed his political candidacy. And then later, he apologized. Why do they get to apologize? Well, can a Nazi apologize? Because it's schizophrenic. So, Marxism, Leninism, vanguardism is not schizophrenic. You got one group on top You got the leadership. It could be triumvirate. It could be a prime minister. That's secondary. But there's a vanguard, one party system. And you have, like in the Franco, I study these older systems. And from what I gathered, okay, so I'm on the opposite side of Franco. He was the fascist side, I'm on the anti-fascist side. But when you get away from the titles and you look at his system, so it's a vanguard party system. And I know people who lived in Spain under Franco and after Franco and moved from Spain to here and said it was the best under Franco. And basically what I ascertained, without studying it so deep, but I studied the Spanish Civil Wars all through the music and everything, and I know about it. I don't know why leftists really celebrated so much when they lost. But you have the vanguard party at the top, so you have no political freedom in that sense. You want to be involved in politics? Study the system, join the party, and show yourself to be competent, and you can move up. That's how it works in China, Cuba, elsewhere. In America, you don't even know how to have to read to run for office. Influencers can be running for office. People with no political experience. Now, go back to Donald Trump. Does he have no political experience? No, he's all around politics and donated both parties. He was a Republican and then ran as a Republican, obviously. So to move forward a bit, and to conclude with the Spanish system. So you have a one party at the top. They govern the international affairs and oversee the nation. So it's stable. And then you don't have another party coming up to challenge them and cause a civil war, which is what we're facing now in some people's eyes. Is it the inevitability of democracy, a civil war? Well, in a one-party system, you don't have that. A revolution would have to come up to overthrow the one party, and you crush it. Don't let it even start. Repress people and everything like that. Yeah. So what? Freedom to overthrow the government. Is that what the freedom is for? It's inevitability with this sort of democracy. Even the Second Amendment is based on that. Yeah. So, with the Spanish system of under Franco, one-party rule, Franco and his guys at the top, but private ownership of land, also commerce and industry is free enterprise, as far as I saw. They didn't have the government controlling industry like you had with Italian fascism. Somebody in the comments maybe you want to get more specific. I'm talking about people firsthand. So you could do business as you do free business, own property, come and go as you please. And then socialized institution. That's what people think socialism is. Socialized institution. They're going to give us free health care. They're going to give that. That's social programs. That's not socialism. You can have social programs in democracy or in socialism, in capitalism or socialism. So, free enterprise, socialized medicine, education, socialized institutions, fire, police. But the people who are the professionals at ruling the country, rule the country. And if you want to rule the country, if you want to be involved in politics, you study the system. So in America, you'd have to pass a test about the Constitution, Bill of Rights, history. Should be that way for voting. If you can't read, what business do you have voting? Oh, that goes back to a racist past. No, but nobody's being held back from reading right now. But if you can't read, it's like the Bible. Like going back to the Martin Luther Reformation. And they didn't let the people read the Bible. So if you sabotage education, masking, pandemic, remote learning, everything else they do, lowered expectations, no more test scores. Okay, so you're sabotaging education deliberately. So now your people in these liberal cities, your kids can't read. So then how are they going to vote? How are they going to cast an intelligent vote? It's then other people who can read can come and wind them up and tell them whatever it was. Same thing that happened with Martin Luther back then in Germany. So then, moving on from Spain and back to the American political candidates, Donald Trump is the front runner, and he's got a lot of support and a lot of love, and he's got an effective track record. He's got a lot of hate. Then the question becomes, though, that hate is all Democrats and Democrats and liberals and leftists or whatever, but it's against that whole party, and they're unified against that whole party. So then, from a Republican perspective, if I'm a political strategist and if I'm in the RNC and I'm saying, okay, well, which candidate are we going to get behind here? This Donald Trump has a lot of baggage. Yeah, well, these people are all against your party anyway. So do you not use your front runner or not put him forward because the other ones, because he has a lot of baggage? Yeah, but he has a lot of steam too. So that's an interesting situation. And, is this administration going to hit him with so much charges, and are they going to bar him from running? It remains to be seen. It's quite interesting. I find all this stuff interesting. It frustrates other people. It's, political science is not science. It's philosophy. It's artistry, performance art. It's conning people, manipulating people's minds who are strong, who are less educated and less intelligent than yourselves. It's artistry. It's theater. So, going down the line, we went from Brother Trump. Now, and I don't agree with everything he says. Is he racist to me? No, but it's up for you to decide. Has he said terrible things, made fun of people, grabbing other people's wives, but nobody says they're not voting for him because he's such a nice guy. They're voting because he's more effective, he's a better leader. Let's move on from him. Am I a Trump supporter? No. I'm a convicted felon, so I became a convicted felon when I was young, right when I was turned like 20, so now I have the right to vote, but I've never voted. I was a convicted felon the whole time, so I never was able to vote. And revolution doesn't come by voting. And vanguardism doesn't involve voting. It involves voting once you have the one party. So, will I vote? I don't know. Maybe this will be the first time I vote. Who will I vote for? I don't know. What's in it for me? Imagine anti-racist for. Anti-racist for. Insert political candidate's name. And my history, militant anarchism, I've been involved with the militant anarchism too. I know about that. I know all the leftism. But militant anti-racism, that's what I came from. Since I retired, now my focus is combating extremism. Helping other people, other youth, at-risk youth who are going down extremist paths, help them bring them back into a civil discourse. So when we get to that sort of notion, let me first discuss Governor DeSantis. I already discussed him. He's the front runner, right? Besides Trump. He's come out against Trump in many ways, but we know with Donald Trump, you can go tooth and nail with him like Marco Rubio did and others, Ted Cruz, but it's a fight. And after the fight, they can shake hands and work together. He's already shown that. So I don't see that Governor DeSantis is saying anything so disrespectful to him. His followers are going to be, calling him a rhino or whatever they're going to call him, but he's a military man, Army Ranger. That right there puts him in a different league than all the other candidates, doesn't it? And he's my governor, and he's great. I think he's done a great job. Whether you left or right, or up or down, or whatever your political beliefs are, he's improved Florida. He's done a great job. He's the best governor of the United States. If Ron DeSantis was president, overall the country would be better, but some people are not going to like it in some of these liberal states and blue states and cities. They're not going to like a lot of his politics and stuff, but what are they going to do? Riot, smash stuff up? They're already prepared for that. Like, everybody's already seen what that looks like. So they're prepared for it. But the country will get better if Ron DeSantis runs it like he's run Florida overall. That's my view. So, I'm not going to comment on some of this other stuff that people allege about him or whatever like that. He's good. And the pandemic, most of us are going to be forever loyal in the respect of his ability to govern, and went against the vaccine mandates, put our kids back in school. For example, I never saw anybody come to shut any businesses down. From martial arts schools to gyms, to nightclubs, to bars. We're still having hardcore shows during the whole pandemic, moshing. Other states are quarantined and everything's shut down in their states. People are getting fined, businesses getting closed. We're still having punk rock concerts and moshing and doing everything we normally would do. Now then, moving on from Governor DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy. I like him. I like all the things he's saying, or majority of the things he's saying. Talk about the inexperience. Well, his experience as a businessman, and look at the way he talks. His speaking speaks for itself, I think. Now, this Nikki Haley, she's, part of the system. Deep state, whatever, war hawk. I ain't got no time for her whatsoever. Vivek Ramaswamy versus Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley's out of there. Chris Christie, out of there. I don't got nothing against him. I'm not from New Jersey. As far as what kind of job he did there, I can't say. But whatever, I'm got nothing against him. He's out of there. So let's say we got Trump, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy. I like Ramaswamy's message. I like his demeanor. He's good at speaking. He's good on his toes. He's not beholden to the corporate interests and so forth. I like Ramaswamy. A person of color, brown person. If Kamala Harris is black, then that's the first black vice president. We never had a brown president or vice president. And they lump us together, oh, we're black and brown people. Since when are Latinos and Indians and Arabs all in the same group? Well, racist policies, a Democrat racist party that views things in terms of race. They're racialists. They believe in terms like whiteness and blackness. Ascribing characteristics and attributes to alleged races is called racialism. That's what you call that. It was formerly only the KKK, Democrat. It was formerly Nazis and, the white does this and the black does this and the whiteness and blackness. It's all based on white supremacist theory. Races. White supremacists hundreds of years ago came out with it. So by attributing attributes to it, you're codifying it. And it's racism, racialism, racism. Racism don't necessarily mean racial prejudice or discrimination. Race-ism, social-ism, capital-ism, fascism, the fascists, the Roman fascists, the bundle of rods with the axe head, which you find a lot of places in Washington, D.C. Race-ism, an entire ism, an entire theory, an entire philosophy based on race. Well, I'm colorblind. I'm not just saying that I was leader involved in a militant anti-racist group, the foremost in South Florida history, one of the most effective in American history. Colorblind skinheads, colorblind CBC, colorblind crew, my band, colorblind cutthroats. So classic liberals like Bill Maher advocate a colorblind society. Republicans advocate a colorblind society. Who is it that wants to keep upholding race, thus racism? Democrats, these liberals. How does that come into play in a socialist country? How does race come into play in China, North Korea, Cuba? The race don't matter, color of your skin. No? It's a vanguard party rules. The vanguard is up here, the working class here, criminal class, military. It's not divided by color in any of those countries. There's women in it as well. So vanguardism is the vanguard ruling everybody else. Nothing to do with race, nothing to do with gender. So we move on. Donald Trump, I'm not going to stay on one on top of the other below him. Donald Trump is the main man, we know that. Whether he's going to be in the race or not, we don't know. But let's just say he's the main man. Then you got Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, then Tim Scott. I like Tim Scott. It's interesting that nobody's saying he'll be the first black president. That it doesn't count when you're a Republican. Just like Larry Elder, all the black and brown Democrats and all that, they fought tooth and nail to keep a white man, Gavin Newsom, in power, as opposed to the first black governor of California, which would have been Larry Elder. He's the black face of white supremacy. Oh, so you can be a black white supremacist? Yes. Okay, so Zelensky's a Jewish Nazi. How can he be a Nazi? He's Jewish. Well, you can't exactly tell he's Jewish, can you? And there was loads of not Jewish Nazis. Always has been. I ain't never seen a black member of the Ku Klux Klan except Dave Chappelle. So Tim Scott, I like some things about him. I like some of his positions. And for more rural territories and stuff, that's fine. But I don't see eye to eye with him on much. He's a proper conservative. He's more with the war hawk guys, and I'm not going to call him a rhino. I like his story, and he's an example of the American dream, and I like a lot of things he says. So I'm not against Tim Scott in any way, but he's got more fundamentalist views. I believe more in a secular society, but I like him. Now, as far as anybody else, there's Doug Burgum. I liked some of the stuff he said. I don't really believe he has much of a chance, and I didn't hear too much about him. And let's close a little bit. Let's close. You have the recent ouster of Kevin McCarthy, led by Matt Gaetz. And now we're seeing, is it going to be Scalise or Jim Jordan? And what's funny is the mainstream media, CNN and everywhere else, Democrats. How come they're always like telling Democrats, the Republicans, what they should do? Oh, you should, and you're causing chaos. That's their business. It's their party. I don't see Republicans telling Democrats what they should or shouldn't do in their party. So Matt Gaetz looked like to me like he did the right thing, and I watched all his speeches afterwards. Boom, 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 and he's articulating everything. And people didn't even know you could do this move that he did, but he did it, and it was effective. And now I saw him support Jim Jordan. So, Majority Taylor Greene, I don't agree with any of these people on all their positions, but we're on the same side with Ukraine. Cut Ukraine funding for that war. We're anti-war. Anti-war used to be left-wing position. It's my opinion, though. Freedom of opinion. Now, Ukraine, American over there issuing kill lists for Russian propagandists, put all the Republicans. Of course, I'm going to be on it, but I've been on a Nazi kill list to begin with. Same thing, same people. So, going down. Cheers to Matt Gaetz. He's looking like, and he's causing reaction on the floor over there. He's looking like shining star. He's moving up there. Majority Taylor Greene, she's got some good things to say. Again, though, she's probably she's more with the more real conservative on a lot of issues, probably socially, than the more fundamentalist that I'm going to be more liberal on, let's say. But we come to a lot of the same positions. Then to conclude it, if there's anything else, I would say is we are at an interesting point right now with politics, because the fight against autocracy and for democracy, well, established democracy came out of white supremacy, right?